Suave.
I've been in my bag for a while, I'm invincible. Story of a young boss, grinding shit get critical. Calling on my bros one time, cause you special. I had some hoop dreams of right rounds for my mentor. Every target that I shoot is on point like a pencil. Different route, change relationships, I'm so sorry. Came up from the trenches and I made it, I say hardly. Now
Bet Online is your number one source for all of your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. Bet Online continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. Alrighty, guys, we are back with another episode of the What's in Your Bag podcast presented by Bet Online. As always, I'm your host, Andrew Robinson, and we are back today with another special guest. But before we introduce our special guest, we got to get the business out of the way. If you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and stop what you're doing. Tap that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up. We're having some amazing guests on this creator series. We have another one today. I have a wonderful conversation that we're looking forward to get into. But like I said, if you watch this on Spotify, go ahead and give us a 5-star rating. It goes a long way. Tell a friend to tell a friend. That was my guy, Pull Up Tay, on the intro. Just dropped an album. So y'all go ahead and stream that. It's going to be him on the outro as well. One of the hottest artists out of the DMV. But guys, like I said, we are in full force with our creator series here. We're tapping into the business of basketball today, and I'm pleased to be joined by the Director of Client Services for Lift Sports Management, Ashley Cox. Ashley, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
No doubt. Now, for everybody listening to this, obviously, like I said, man, we've been kind of tapping into a different lane with the pod a couple, last recent weeks with some, photographers, stylists. Now we're getting into the business of sports a little bit. And I wanted to get this interview done, man, because I feel like as a player myself, I know how important it is to establish a team, when it comes to athletes and have people that are behind the scenes that are kind of handling things and things of that such. So we're going to get into all that with Ashley today. Going to learn a lot. But, we're going to start off on a little bit of a lighter note. I just want to reflect, Ashley. I know you were just out there at Summer League. Summer League is freaking crazy. I know it's like the basketball convention. So just talk to me about the vibes at Summer League this year. What was it like out in Vegas? I know I feel like everybody was out there this year, but just talk to me about Summer League and what that experience was like this year.
First and foremost, 11 days in Vegas is criminal. But it is definitely my favorite time of the summer. I had actually interned with NBA Summer League when I was in college for 4 years. So to now go back and be on the other side and work for a sports agency and be there to, watch our guys, it's really cool to see how much the event itself has grown over the years. I get to, see my guys, but I also get to connect with my Summer League family. I get to see, other friends in the industry, network, connect, do all those things. So it's just the best place to be aside from the heat during the summer, because everyone is in one place. Whether you're established or you're looking to break into the industry, it's definitely the best place to be.
Yeah, I know it was plus 100 out there. I felt bad for you guys out there for that, because I know that Vegas heat is something crazy.
Yeah, no, it was very, very, very hot. I mean, I spent a lot of the time in the gym or the hotel and going to different places, so it wasn't a lot of time spent outside, but it was definitely hot when you're getting in the car and getting out and walking to the arena and things like that.
Walking that strip. What would you say is your favorite part of Summer League?
I think just seeing so many familiar faces and getting to connect with people that I've known for a really long time. Like I said, I interned with them when I was in college, so not to age myself, but I started in 2013. And so 10 years later, to be on the other side and just seeing where everybody is, whether they're working for teams now or working for a brand or at an agency, just where everyone is now. I think that's just my favorite part, is seeing everyone that I've known for a really long time.
Nice. Now, also, man, shame on me. Happy belated birthday. Actually, just
Thank you.
birthday. So everybody go ahead and wish her a happy birthday. You know what I'm saying? Show her some love. I hope your birthday went well. Well, life to you. What was the birthday festivities this year? Did you have some fun? Do a little dinner?
You know what? I did. I had a lot of fun. Because I was coming off of Vegas, I was like, I want to sit in a dark room that's cool, 68 degrees in silence all day, do nothing. And I ended up having a massage scheduled. My boss scheduled me a massage and a facial at a resort in Orange County. And then I had a dinner with friends that night that was planned like 3 days before. So it was to have started out and like not wanting to do anything to it being what it was like I needed it. I didn't think I did, but I needed it, and I was really glad that my birthday happened the way that it did. So I'm going into 29 refreshed and ready to take on the year.
Love it, love it. Shout out to the boss, man, getting the massage. That's you get points for that. Definitely get
I
points.
definitely cried when I found out about it. I was like, oh man. Really, I was really appreciative of it.
Love it, love it, love it, man. So we'll circle back on some more. I got some more questions about the dinner vibes and LA vibes later on. We'll get to the fun part of the podcast, but I do want to ask you, man. So kind of get into the business of everything, right? I want to ask you. I did some research and I found that you were a volleyball player back in high school. So my question is, what made you want to work in basketball, right? Like, how did you kind of make that transition initially to where you were, you mentioned you interned with the summer league as well. So where did that, I guess, interest in basketball come after playing, volleyball for most of your life?
Yeah, well, I did play high school and college, but I working summer league and working in basketball honestly just fell into my lap. I went to high school with Mike Brown, who was the former Laker coach. I went to high school with his kids, and I got to know their family really well. And so when I was home my freshman year of college during the holidays, I went to watch his oldest play that was still at Mater Dei. And Albert Hall, who runs the NBA Summer League, was there. So Coach Brown was like, tell him what you want to do. And I'm like, I'm 18. I don't know what I want to do with my life. And Albert told me about Summer League, said to send, my resume, and I did. And in retrospect, I guess I didn't realize how hard it was to get into it unless you're like grandfathered in. It's the average person. It's kind of hard for you to get involved with an event like that. So it was right place, right time, and it really just fell into my lap.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Now, like I mentioned before we on air, man, it's early out here in Japan. I did know that you played in college. I actually played 4 years of college volleyball at UC Riverside. So I don't want to make the folks think I didn't do my research, man. Early, so y'all forgive me. But so I want to talk about your volleyball career though. Like obviously, I mentioned playing at UC Riverside. Like, you mentioned that I know volleyball was like your first love. So talk about kind of just the playing days of actually, before the business side, actually the athlete.
Yeah. Well, my family is a big like football and volleyball family. My mom, my aunt, my uncle, they all played volleyball. So I feel like I was destined to play. But I mean, I'm 5'4.5", and I played outside hitter, which is extremely undersized, but I was just a firecracker. Like I was super competitive. I still am. I did not have the greatest ball control. All I wanted to do was hit. But I humbly could jump out of the gym. And so that was like my superpower. Like I loved playing outside. I miss it. Like I played sand the other day with some friends, and I suck at sand volleyball because I can't jump as high in the sand. And I've obviously gotten older. My knees don't work the same. But I miss the game because it's fun. It's competitive. Yeah, I don't even know if I answered that right, but I was super competitive and I loved the game a lot.
So you say you jump out the gym. So you're saying basically that if you was playing basketball, you'd be dunking on folks, and if you was like 5'10", that's what it sounds like.
Not quite, but I definitely could touch the rim, or I was like just under the rim.
I though. So if you was 5'10", that means you probably could be. You probably would be dunking.
At my height, yes. No, I was short. I have really long arms. I have a short torso, but like I could definitely jump. That's so nice. Yeah.
Now, I'm an East Coast guy. I went to college in Connecticut at Quinnipiac. I don't know if you've ever heard of that school. It's a mid-major. We're over in the MAC, Iona, some schools like that. But, it was very cold, you know what I'm saying, up in Connecticut. I did get recruited by Cal State. What was it? I think it was
Fullerton.
Fullerton. I think it might have been Fullerton.
Mhm.
I always wonder what it was like to go to school out there, though, man. I feel like my dream of going to school in Cali is like you're on the beach and it's like great vibes all the time. So, what was your experience like at UC Riverside? Is that like, I don't know what part of California that's in though, so I don't know. Maybe it was a little bit different, but
It's Inland Empire. It's hot. It's dry. You're nowhere near the beach. The beach is an hour and a half away. So I was only like an hour from home, and I'm about like 20-25 minutes from the beach.
mm,
Um, so I think one thing that was hard about recruiting to a school like UC Riverside versus a UC Irvine, which is where I currently live now, and it's closer to the beach. It's when I was in college, our teams were probably like competition wise, quality, I guess, like same level. We were the bottom of the Big West. But demographically, like, or not demographically, geographically, it was more appealing to be at UC Irvine than it was UC Riverside, just because of the location. You know, UCI, you're closer to the beach. UC Riverside, you're on your way to Palm Springs. And so it definitely was hard to recruit to a school like that. But I went because I love the coaches. They had been coaching me since I was like a sophomore in high school, and I knew I was going to be able to come in and compete and potentially start right away as an outside. So that was what was most appealing, because I was, there were coaches that really believed in me.
yeah, love it. So, kind of switching gears from volleyball into that basketball space, right? Was there like a learning curve for you in like learning the nuances of the game, and trying to figure out like, all right, like what's going on in certain aspects of it? I mean, I know it's different when you're on the business side of it versus playing, but like, was there ever an adjustment period that had to take place when you're transitioning into the business of basketball, or trying to kind of learn the ins and outs of the game compared to what you were doing, obviously playing volleyball?
Um, Not so much, because I wasn't coming in to be an agent. I mean, at the time when I was interning and doing all those things, so kind of a backstory.
Yep.
I originally wanted to do sports broadcasting, realized I hated hearing my voice projected. After doing summer league for 2 or 3 years, I was like noticing who the top agents were. I was seeing how male dominated it was, and I like wanted to come in and disrupt it. And so at one point I did want to be an agent. And so having wanted to do that at the time, that made sense. But I like where I'm at now and what I'm doing, it didn't, I understand the basic concepts of the game, but I don't sit and talk to my guys and like break down their game afterwards, because that's just not my expertise. So I wouldn't say that the transition from playing volleyball to working in basketball was hard or like different in any way, because it's really about relationships, and I'm a relationships person. So it was honestly second nature.
100%, 100%. I think you brought up a great point just about relationships, and you mentioned how kind of at summer league, you were able to get that first opportunity, just kind of being right place, right time, knowing the right people. Talk about just the power of relationships nowadays. I feel like everybody said it's so cliche. It's not about what you know, it's about who you know. But I feel like in the business of basketball, like that's literally facts. You know what I'm saying? It's oftentimes just about, like you said, being in the right place. I remember when I was in LA too. I mean, because my brother was working for the Clippers, I was able to meet so many different people. Like I met the founder of Switch Cultures. I mean, different photographers. Shout out my boy Mike C. I met Daryl from Gradient Visuals. It was just so many. I'm like, damn, I've been out here for like 2 weeks and I'm already networking with so many different people. And it's truly a hub. So I just want to talk about, I want to ask you just about, being on this side of it now, how important is it to have relationships, and have those connections that you can leverage for certain opportunities?
I think relationships are probably more important than a degree
Mm,
in this industry. I think when it comes to like marketing and branding and stuff, obviously going to school and like knowing it by the book is helpful. But I mean, I went to school for media and cultural studies and was watching Quentin Tarantino films, and that had nothing to do with what I'm doing now. My relationships have a lot to do with me being in the position that I'm in now. Obviously, like my relationships and then the experiences, the work experience that I've had has led to this, but I don't think it necessarily had anything to do with a course that I took in college. So I think relationships are super, super important. And I think to kind of put things into perspective. So my junior season, after that season, I had torn my labrum. And so I was like trying to figure out if I should transfer and redshirt and then, go somewhere else and start my master's. And I was talking to a friend because I felt like my degree wasn't helpful to like where I was trying to get to. And I talked to a friend that was at Nike at the time, and I was like, do you think that I need my master's? And he was like, before I got the job at Nike, I was going to get my master's, but I happened to get this, so I didn't. And he's like, relationships are everything. And that kind of gave me a little bit more peace of mind because I was so worried, like, I'm not getting anything out of this degree that I can tell. Like, what if I need to go get my master's in something else? But he assured me, and I'd stand by it. Relationships are seriously everything.
100%.
Get a degree. It definitely helps.
Facts. At least have it, on the resume. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Now you talked about just your role with Lift Sports, and I kind of want to get into that. Like, what is your role? What kind of tasks fall under your responsibility? Right? I feel like when people hear, somebody's a manager or athlete manager, they're like, huh, okay, cool. Well, what does that actually look like? Right? Like, what tasks actually fall under your kind of job description? Right? So can you just kind of talk a little bit about what your role is at Lyft?
Yeah, I mean, I think to kind of summarize it, I'm a facilitator. I'm an extension of my boss, who is the head agent. He handles all the contract negotiations, the shoe deals, like those sort of things. And I'm an extension of him. So all the day-to-day needs of our guys, whether that's, making sure they're staying on top of their obligations with brands that they're working with, or booking a dinner reservation or flights, or there's nothing that's off limits, and I try to be as helpful to our clients and their families as possible. So I probably sometimes am like say yes to too many things, but I just want them to always know that they have me as a resource. And it could be working with Nike to get t-shirts for their summer basketball camp, like working with the teams, getting family tickets. There's really nothing that's off limits. It's everything.
Nice. Now, is Mike Miller still the head agent at Lyft?
Yeah, I think Mike is the president.
Yeah.
When my boss joined, I think they were KB's like head agent. I think Mike is president.
Got you. Yeah, shout out Mike Miller, man. He was somebody I looked up to. I think I'm a shooter. So for me, watching Mike Miller as a shooter was like, hey, I remember him when winning that championship with LeBron back in the day. So I'm loving seeing what he's doing now with Lyft. You know what I'm saying?
I've been around him a couple times, and he's, I think, only like 2 or 3, but he's been great every time that we've interacted. So I like him.
That's dope. I'm glad to hear it. Now, who were some of the players that you had the opportunity to work with through your job at Lyft?
So I currently work with, we have like Patrick Beverly, PJ Washington, Tyus Jones, Trey Jones, Max Christie, Ty Washington, PJ Dozier. Those are some of the guys that Kevin Bradbury, my boss, represents. I don't like work with Pat Bev much at all, just because he's such a seasoned vet and he's got his people that he works with and it works. And so when he was in LA, I helped with a couple things, but for the most part, KB, Gina Paradiso, who works with us and is brilliant, she works with him. But yeah, I would say like the Jones brothers are guys that I really work with. Max Christie, Ty, PJ I've known for a really long time, Washington, and then PJ Dozier's. That's my guy.
Nice, man. Shout out Pierre Dozier, man. I played against him back at the Reebok breakout camp back in 2014. We've been cool ever since then. He's from South Carolina too. He's really cool with one of my homies, Jordan Bruner, man. But I wanted to ask you, like, why do you think it's so important for these athletes to have management, right? Because I feel like, as an athlete myself, it's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that you might need help with, but sometimes you might not. It's hard. You have a million different things, especially when you get to the NBA level, and now you're bringing, like you mentioned, brand deals and every type of thing. So why do you think it's so important for people to have, managers to kind of handle these type of things so that they can kind of focus on what goes on the court?
Well, I think it's just that. I think having an agent, your financial advisor, your client service person that helps you with your career allows you to focus on what you're being paid to do, which is play basketball, you know, and then obviously getting on advice on things when it comes to like then becoming a businessman. Like, I think it's exactly that. It's just you're able to focus on your profession and you have a team of people that are experts essentially in what they do to represent you and work on your behalf.
Yeah. Now, how would you say, what is the process like? Or I guess how I would say, how important is it to like know each individual client when trying to assess, which opportunities might be best for them, right? Because I'm sure that there's a lot of companies or, brands that might want to work with, ex-athlete, but at the end of the day, every player has a different brand identity. Every player kind of shows up differently, in the public space. So when it comes to trying to decipher those type of things, how important is like knowing each individual client when trying to assess those type of things?
I think for me, so I don't focus so much on like the marketing deals. We have a team for that. But I think for me and my relationships, it's really important because I do work with the marketing team. And so knowing them, their interests, I'm able to speak on their behalf without having to, go back and forth.
Right.
So I definitely think it's helpful. And I think authenticity is so big, because everyone wants to deal with Chipotle, but like, why are you different than the next athlete? And I think that's something that like athletes need to understand is, yeah, you're a professional athlete and you make a lot of money, but like, so is this person. So like, how do we set you apart and it be authentic and, we show the brand why they should work with you.
Right. I kind of want to get your opinion on this because I feel like from the outside looking in, I feel like, the new age athlete in 2023 is like stepping into so many different like lanes. And a kind of prime example, like obviously I think it was last month was Fashion Week, and you're looking at in Milan and Paris, so many different athletes out there. Dudes sitting front row, dudes I didn't even know was interested in fashion was out there. I'm like, yo, what? And it's like I feel like today's athlete is just stepping into a bunch of different type of avenues, whether it be business, fashion, or even just different type of hobbies. How important is it, would you say, for athletes today to be able to diversify the things that they're interested in order to, I guess, set themselves up to, I guess, be this idea of, more than an athlete, or just, can you speak on this, the importance of, I guess, diversifying the things that you're interested in?
I think just like being multifaceted and not only being a basketball player brings more opportunities to you. So like we have Max is like super into anime. A lot of guys aren't into that, but that's something he's like, he doesn't travel the path that everybody else does. He's very much like out of the box. He likes what he likes and he doesn't conform with what, a lot of the guys I feel like do when they get to the NBA. And that sets him apart, that alone, and so I think just being multifaceted brings you more opportunities. Point blank.
Yeah.
How to break
No, for sure. I feel like sometimes, like, again, I want to get your opinion on this too, because I feel like sometimes players can get kind of villainized for stepping into different lanes or doing different things. I feel like somebody like Kyle Kuzma, for example, people always will make comments on his fashion. And that whole clip with I don't know if you saw with him and like Spencer Dinwiddie were going back and forth. And Spencer Dinwiddie was like, "Oh well, your interests tend to vary because you're doing all these extra things." It's like, well, why does it have to be painted as a negative because somebody's into fashion or doing these different type of things, right? Like I feel like on the one hand, you want to be multifaceted and kind of show that you have more sides to you than basketball. But then on the other hand, I feel like sometimes it can be used against you in public forums where people can say, "Oh, he's not focused," or he's not really committed to basketball, right? Like, what is your 2 cents on that?
I think it depends on the person. I think some guys get to the league and like they just, not to say Kyle Kuzma doesn't love basketball, but some people it's like basketball, and that's it. And then they don't show their personality outside of that. Whereas someone like Kyle is capitalizing and wants to show him outside of being a basketball player, but he wants to show that side of him. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think maybe if it gets in the way of what you're supposed to be doing on the basketball court, and maybe if your teammates and they're more focused on that than like trying to win, I could see where like someone would say something. But if it like doesn't affect you in any way, someone showing the different side of them should have no effect on you at all.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think people kind of use that as a weapon sometimes. And it's like I don't really think it should be weaponized in that way.
Yeah, no, I agree.
From your experience, what would you say is, when you're working with young guys, you mentioned, Max Christie, and I'm sure you have a bunch of other guys that are like kind of young, kind of transitioning into the NBA. What would you say is the most difficult part, or the thing that's kind of most challenging for new players when they're first adjusting to the NBA?
I think probably just, and I'm not, in their shoes, but I think going from a student athlete where you've been in school to where, in the NBA, the best players are going into the league at a younger age.
Yeah.
So to be 18, 19 years old, going into the league and making a lot of money, and you're getting paid to literally play basketball. And then it's like, what do I do with my spare time?
Yeah.
You have to find things that you're interested in. So I think that's probably something that's really hard.
You touched on it a little bit earlier, but being a woman in a male-dominated industry like basketball, right? You mentioned majority of agents are men, and I feel like if you look at the basketball front office, the majority of people in those spaces are men, right? What would you say has been, I guess, number one, the most challenging aspect in trying to assimilate into this industry, and then I guess the most pleasant experience that has come with being a woman in this industry?
I've had conversations like this before, and I feel like I don't have the typical answer that like most women give.
Yeah.
I think probably the toughest is just like before I was established and working, I got my first big girl job at 27, and I was working with my same guys and my same boss, but just at a different agency.
Yep.
And I think before that, had so many relationships, but I was never planted anywhere. Like I worked for Rob Pelinka for a short period of time. I worked for Joe Dumars for a short period of time, but it was like nothing was sticking. And so it was hard to sometimes, I guess, be taken seriously. And I cared about all the relationships that I had developed over the years. But I mean, I guess the kind of obvious is like just being a woman in it, and like trying to make connections to get a job, and then men sometimes, trying to hit on you or whatever. Like that's just kind of like the natural thing that happens, and I think I've dealt with. But for the most part, I feel like my experiences have been relatively pleasant because one, I know who I am and I'm very outspoken. And so when I feel like someone is speaking kind of out of line, I have no problem like checking them. And so I think that then forces them to respect me, right? And then I think also having worked for someone like Kevin Bradbury, who I've worked for the last 2 years, he's literally the best boss I've ever had. And not to say Rob or Joe weren't, like I had great experiences with both of them.
Yeah.
Rob gave me my first opportunity to work for an agency. I got to experience the NBA draft and the combine in 2016. But working for someone that has genuinely empowered me and gives me like confidence and defends me. If, he doesn't ever let anyone talk to me crazy. He empowers me to make my own decisions. And if I make a mistake, it's okay because I'm able to learn from it. And we just had like real life conversations. And so I think I've been fortunate in that regard. I mean, and having clients that, I have great relationships with their families. But the ones that are married, I have great relationships with their wives. The young ones, like Ty's dad defends me like I'm his little sister, So I think for the most part, I've been pretty fortunate.
That's great.
Or I'm just completely oblivious to it all. I don't notice. It's one or the other.
That's great. I feel like the NBA is one of the more progressive leagues when you compare it to like the NFL. And things like that, and as far as just like trying to be inclusive and things like that. So it is positive to hear that. One thing I wanted to ask you about since you brought it up was the whole kind of thing about men trying to hit on you and stuff like that. I was listening to episode of The Pivot with Taylor Rooks, and she's somebody who I look up to a lot as somebody who's like in the media space and things like that. She's awesome, but she was talking about how they kind of asked her how Taylor, like, how does it feel that like whenever you're pictured with the guy, like they assume that you're dating them, or like, how do you navigate dating in this space? Because obviously you're a public figure, and she mentioned how she has a relationship and she keeps it private and all that kind of stuff. But she mentioned how it's like no matter what she wears, people will comment on her appearance, and she could be doing an interview with somebody, fully clothed, and like, oh well, she looked this way, right? So I wanted to ask you, right? I feel like the NBA is people make assumptions. I'm not here to say whether it's true or not about the nature of the business as far as players and the girls and all that kind of stuff. But I want to ask you more so about how you deal with that kind of stuff, man. I feel like when it's a woman in a space like this, you're working with professional athletes, people always will assume that, oh, well, so-and-so, she must be dating this player, doing these type of things, right? Like, how do you kind of deal with that? Or people will say, oh, well, she's only in this space because she's attractive or whatever the case may be, right? Just that whole landscape of topics, right? How do you deal with those things? What do you got to say to people who will make those type of comments, right, on the internet, things like that? I feel like this is like a learning opportunity or opportunity where you can kind of maybe speak to somebody who maybe even listen to this that might have those type of thoughts, right? Like, what are your thoughts on that whole idea?
I think that years ago, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Years ago, I used to always explain how, or like felt like I had to explain how I knew somebody, especially because I wasn't established. So it was like, I know this person because I worked at Adidas Nations, I worked Summer League, and, we were cool and things like that. And then I realized like the more that I tried to explain this myself, the more it seemed like I had something to hide. And so I just got to a point where I'm like, I'm not doing anything. I don't owe anyone an explanation. I met them at an event that I worked, and I like, before I was established, I think also it was like connecting with people will help me maybe get a job. And I was connected with them genuinely. But, I was always told or like, thought that like your network is your net worth. And so it was like, build your relationships and create as many relationships as you can, and maybe that'll turn into a job. And I think now I deal with things or I hear things and it goes through one ear and out the other, because I know that I've worked extremely hard to get to where I'm at. And I'm sure that if I did things a little bit differently, or I would have probably gotten to a position that I wanted sooner, but I'm in the position that I'm supposed to be in because I took the path that I did, and I waited, or maybe I was afraid to ask for help when I was younger, but I'm kind of glad that it all worked out the way that it did. But I think when it comes to people making assumptions, I think that has more to do with someone needing to change their own mindset than like me changing what I'm doing to make them comfortable or change their perspective. Like it's up to me. Like, you had your mind made up from the beginning, so right. I'm not going to try to change it. That's
so good. That's true. I never thought about it like that, as far as like always having to say, oh, I know somebody from this part, I know somebody from this place. And that can definitely be a crazy burden to wear, you know what I'm saying? Especially when, men don't have to deal with that kind of stuff. You post a picture with anybody, it's like, yeah, this the bro, it's the homie, you know what I'm saying? Do you ever feel like when you're in public, or, you're at games, or you may be with a client, right? Do you ever feel like you have to, like, I guess, be mindful of, the way you're talking to them, or if you hug somebody, oh, people gonna think I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Do you ever have to think about those type of things? Or it's kind of like, you know what? I know what the relationship is between me and PJ, or me and Ty's house. I'm not worried about what y'all think. How do you kind of balance those things? Because at the end of the day, you do have to keep it quote unquote professional, but you have a relationship with these people, you know what I'm saying? Like you said, you know these people's families, their dads and their parents. So there is a genuine relationship there, right? So I guess, how do you balance just those interactions in person when you have to, I guess, keep both of those things in mind?
I don't pay them any mind because I know I'm doing my job. So it's not even like, it doesn't cross my mind until maybe I'm meeting someone. Like I had one interaction. This was probably like last off season, and there were people that came to watch one of our guys from a team. I won't say what team. Yeah. And I'm standing with my client, and one guy that I was not familiar with me and I was not familiar with him was like, oh, are you? And I'm looking at him because I know where he's going. And he's like, are you? And I'm like, am I what? And I kind of like snapped at him, and he's like, he's like, are you guys like dating? And I'm like, no. I'm like, I work for him. And he was like, oh, my bad. Like, you guys look cute together. I'm like, but why does it have to automatically be that? Why
Right.
can't I work, why do I have to be the sister? Why do I have to be the girlfriend? You know, like I'm the client service person. I'm Ashley. That's who I am. And so in those instances, I at this point in my career, I like to like just play with people a little bit just because I'm like, let's see where you're gonna go with this, you know. But I think with Max, I've gotten, are you his sister, a couple times because people think we look alike. But outside of that, I don't really pay attention to it because I know what I'm doing. I'm, like I said, I worked really hard to get here and I wouldn't do anything to mess that up, you know. And if someone's paying attention to how I hug somebody, like, get a life.
First of all, a stranger that you don't know, he don't know you, coming up asking, "Oh, are you dating them?" Like, boy, you
Right,
about to win this shit?
exactly. So I don't pay it any mind.
That's dope. That's dope. Are there any like women that you look up to in this industry, or like I did some research and I read that you said that you wanted to eventually be in the NBA front office one day. So like, are there any? That's what I read, at least. Maybe that wasn't true. That's what I
I
read.
don't know if I said that.
That's what I read. Maybe the article. I'm at to see the link after this so you can see what was.
Yeah, please do, because I don't know where I said that.
But do you have any people?
Talk about exploring it, but I don't know if that's the end goal. No.
I'm dead. I'm dead. All right, cool. Well, I'm glad we cleared that up. But kind of on that same topic, though, are there any other women in this industry that you may look up to or reach out to for advice? I guess I feel like everybody kind of has people who you might, oh, I think she's dope, whatever. But I think, were there any inspirations kind of for you, or even growing up, women who you looked at and was like, yo, like, I think she's super inspiring.
Yeah, I think I have two women that are like big sisters and mentors to me. One is Shay Dawson. We did Summer League together a couple, like back when I interned. She's worked at Overtime. She's worked for the 76ers, and I adore her so much. She's one of my mentors. And then Melissa Laporte, she works on like the football side. I think she worked in basketball like back in the day, but manages a lot of like NFL guys. And same thing, they're actually best friends, and Melissa and I have gotten super close, and she's a mentor to me. I love her to death. I think people in the industry that I admire from afar, I know Taylor Rooks a little bit, like we're cool. I got to go to her birthday party a couple years ago. But I like love and respect her so much and everything that she's doing and how authentic she is. Who else? I mean, I think there's a lot of women, but I'm just so big on like genuine, authentic relationships that I kind of sometimes struggle with connecting with women sometimes because I think it's like, oh, we're both women in sports and we should be friends and keep up with each other. But like, maybe we don't align morally, you know? And so when it's like, we should connect for that sole purpose, I kind of struggle with it because I'm just big on like, my best relationships are people that I've met organically, you know? And so I just always stood on that. But I guess those are three to name a few. There's more for sure, but I can't think of them off the top of my head.
Sure. I want to ask a follow-up. I think that you made a great point. And I feel like, you mentioned how sometimes you feel like it's tougher to like, I guess, make genuine relationships with women, right? I feel like a lot of my female friends will say, I got a bunch of male friends. It's not that I don't like women, but I just feel like sometimes based on your interests, like you mentioned, and your personality, you might just align more with guys. Do you feel like, I guess, or I should ask, what do you think do you feel like you personally like would have more like guy friends and female friends given like the industry that you do work in because you're around guys so much as far as people who you work with and things like that? Or do you feel like, I don't know, what are your thoughts on that whole dynamic? Like, do you think that it's tough to kind of make friends with women in this industry? Because I know you just said it's kind of hard because of the organic. It's like, oh, we're just gonna be friends because we're doing the same thing.
I think because it's so male dominated and there's not a lot of women, I think we as women try to make connections, but then at the same time, there's people that try to like put us against each other. And I think that's why I kind of have reservations and like, I'm probably not the best at like putting myself out there to connect with people. I'd rather someone come to me, or like, us be at the same place and meet each other, rather than it being like a Instagram DM and like we're complete strangers. I think that, again, because it's male dominated, I have a lot of male relationships and I've always worked for men. A lot of my opportunities have come from men, but I know there's a lot of women that have also put my names in hats that I didn't know about, and I'm definitely appreciative of that. So I'm not like, I don't lean more towards the side of like having relationships with men or having relationships with women. I think I'm just like, whoever I vibe with organically, those are my people. Point blank, period.
Facts. So what advice would you give to, another young Black girl that might be coming up and like, I want to work in sports, right? I want to kind of take this avenue, right? Obviously we've talked a lot about you being a woman in sports, which is a huge part of it. But I think, you being a Black woman in this space is also something that's important to highlight, because it's like it's even harder to get in these opportunities, you know what I'm saying, being African American and stuff like that. So I want to talk about just what advice would you give to another young Black girl who's trying to pursue this industry and trying to, be the next Ashley Cox?
I think the best advice that I could give is be confident in who you are, and keep your head down and work. I think I was taught when I interned with the NBA Summer League, like, your ego is not your amigo. And I stand by that 10 years later, because if you think that you're above any task, you're only getting in your own way. There would be things that we would have to do at Summer League, like sit by an elevator for 2 hours. That was not the most glamorous, but that was also the elevator that only team personnel could go through. And so if you looked at it that way, that's an opportunity to connect with someone from a team. So I think it's just put your ego aside, keep your head down and work, and then just be confident in who you are. Don't necessarily be cocky, but like, be confident in who you are. And I think that will help you get to where you're trying to go.
Love that. What would you say is, if you could be like, 5 years from now or 10 years from now, right? This is maybe like my dream job, or this is where I want to go. Because we already established that Ashley does not want to work in the NBA front office, right?
That might change in 5 years. I don't know.
Maybe. So what would like a dream role look like for you?
Okay, so we said how I like want to do sports broadcasting. Then I thought I wanted to be an agent, and then I realized how grimy it was, and I was like, I'll cry every single day if I'm an agent. I think my goal has always been to have my own boutique style management company, because I feel like relationships are where I flourish. I might not have the marketing down, like, the book would tell you, or anything like that, but I am really good with maintaining and nurturing relationships. And so that would be my goal, like doing off the court, off the field, like concierge management type stuff, maybe a little bit of marketing. I feel like I haven't dabbled in that a lot to where I'm super confident in it right now. But I'm also in a place where like I'm 2 years into being established in the position that I'm in, and I'm just trying to be super present in it and learn as much as I can. And so this might sound bad, but I'm trying not to look too far into the future, because I want to be great at what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think people always say kind of like live in the moment. I think it's always interesting how like life can take you in a bunch of different directions. You might say you want to do one thing, and then it's like, well, how did I end up here? You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I think in an industry like this, like, there's the ebbs and flows of the business. It's not your normal 9 to 5. You're on the clock 24/7, 365 days a year. And so knowing that, like, no 2 days are ever the same. It's hard for me to look too far ahead, because I sometimes don't even know what's happening next week. Like, I might find out tomorrow I have to go somewhere in 3 days, so I'm like, I can try to plan out 5 or 10 years from now, but something could change next week. You just never know in this industry. My brain is mush right now. Sorry.
No, you're good. I feel like that's so interesting, because I thought about that when you were responding about how your job is essentially 365, right? You're a basketball player. This is our off season. You know what I'm saying? We chilling. You can go on vacation, but it's always things to do as far as events. People have camps in the summer, like you mentioned, right? You're trying to maybe get a little bit more into the endorsement side of things in the off season, right? So, damn, what did that look like for you, man? Like, do you ever get to like take vacation? Do you ever get a chunk of time off, or is it really just like 24/7, 365 I'm working? Like how, and then I guess how is that challenging also because there isn't really like a downtime, for you.
Well, I think, like I said, there's the ebbs and flows of the business. I think the summer is obviously our busiest time. Well, the spring and the summer, you're going through the pre-draft process, the draft, then you have summer and camps and a lot of things that the guys, deals that they might have that you handle in the summer as opposed to in season because it's hard to schedule sometimes. So I think season is sometimes a little bit more chill. I think I'm still learning. We're trying to figure out when people take vacations, but I think it's around like August, early September when the guys start like going back, to their team cities. But I'm definitely still navigating that, like trying to figure out. My mom and I just had a conversation about it last night because she was like, you don't have like PTO. And I was like, yeah, no, it's non-existent, I feel like, in our industry. Like, but it's because like, the summer, towards the end of summer, there's downtime. So you do have that time to go MIA for a little while. And then, then it's back to the grind, but it's just part of the business.
Yeah. How do you deal with burnout? Because I feel like that's something that when it comes to the NBA is major, right? And even talking to my brother, this last year he was like a sports operations intern, but he kind of, how it is when you're an intern, you do a little bit of everything. He's on the court, working dudes out. Then he's going upstairs and helping with like scouting and watching film, and they have him doing all type of stuff. And he was talking about the culture in the NBA, right? Especially when you're coming in as an intern, right? You're supposed to be in the facility before the GM gets there, and you're supposed to leave, after the last player is there, and you're supposed to kind of just grind, and work. And it's like I feel like throughout the NBA, whether you're a player, they say you're supposed to be the first person in the gym, last person to leave the gym, and like I feel like no matter what role you're in within the NBA, it's always a grind and you're on the go. So, how do you deal with burnout in this type of business to where, like you mentioned, it's always something, you're always working? That can be tough on the mental, right? So how do you deal with burnout personally?
I think I'm at a place now where I've kind of not figured it out, but I'm better about it. And I think it's just finding the balance, I guess, of like not taking on too much at one time, and honestly just communicating with your boss, communicating with your clients. Like if a request comes in maybe late at night, and you feel like maybe it's not super pressing, like there's nothing wrong with being like, do you mind if I handle this tomorrow? What's the worst they can say? No. Okay, no. And then you handle it. But I think also just like finding time, depending on the time of the year, right? The ebbs and flows. Like, okay, I got to grind in the spring. When we were at our previous firm, the spring I lived at the gym. I was there in the morning, making sure breakfast was there for the guys. And I was the last one to, pretty much to leave because they had workouts twice a day. But I just knew like, you just got to grind through these 2.5 months, it's part of the business. And then you get a break in August, like just grind through April to July, but I think the biggest thing is like communicating. And if you feel like you have a lot on your plate, like, okay, figure out what's the most pressing right now, like what needs to be handled now and what can maybe wait. Around my birthday, I like made it very clear, like I'm going MIA for my birthday. I was in Vegas for 11 days. Don't call me from Friday to Monday. Be so clear on it. And they were okay with it, like they know that I worked hard, and my boss was 100% okay with it. He's like, enjoy your weekend. And so I just think communicating and knowing how to prioritize things can kind of help with burnout. But obviously, like when you're starting out, and that's where I say like your ego is not your amigo. Like you got to pay your dues. And that's not to say that like kill yourself getting someone's coffee, but you got to grind at some point. And depending on the role that you want, whether you want to work for a team or an agency, like I think on both sides, you're pretty much on call at all times. My boss will sit and say like he takes his family on vacation and he feels like he's not able to be present because, your phone's always ringing. And so unfortunately it's part of the business, and I think you need to decipher, like, do I want to be part of this or not? But I think when it comes to just like balancing burnout, like recognizing it and then just communicating, if you do need a day or hour, a couple hours to just like debrief, find something that you're interested in that kind of can like take your mind off of the things that you're working on. Because I think for me, being fully remote now, my brain is like always spinning because I don't want to forget anything. To where like at night I'm like sometimes up because I'm like, okay, did I forget something? But create a list, or to do like a task list, and just work at it, and then communicate.
Yeah. What are some things that you've personally found that help you kind of get away or decompress when things are getting a little bit hectic? For somebody who might be listening to this and like is looking for kind of an escape or some tips that they can kind of implement into their, routine. What are some things that have helped you kind of get away when you're feeling overwhelmed?
I would say going walks in my neighborhood has definitely been super helpful. I feel my happiest when I'm like out in the sun. So I think that, and like working out. I started working out with a friend this week, and we're working out 4 days a week, and I set it on my calendar like 10:30 to 12 is kind of my window. Like I'll handle work before then, and then that's my hour and a half to just like focus on my workout and like blow off some steam, and then have lunch, and I continue working. And so I think working out has kind of been the thing that's gotten my mind off of work for the most part.
Love it. Love it. Last question I'll ask you before we get into some lighter stuff. Where would you like to see the industry go in terms of becoming more accommodating or more acceptable? I know you said you have positive experiences, but I feel like there's always ways that you can improve as far as opening up more doors for women in this industry, making it more accessible, making it more accommodating. So where would you like to see the game or the industry go in maybe next 5 or 10 years, and kind of opening up those doors or making these things more accessible for the next woman to come through and get their foot in the door?
I think just like recognizing and accepting that having women in decision-making positions is better for everyone. I think that's like probably the one thing that I would say is I think we're a lot more rational than men. And I think the men that do recognize it know it. And so, yeah, I think just having, that's where you see more women in the NFL, like that are head strength trainers or position coaches, referees, agents, female agents that are head of, football divisions or basketball divisions or whatever. Like there's a reason for that, because they know that they're not just the right fit, but they're more than capable. And so got to make more room for us.
Period. While we're on the topic, you mentioned shout out to agent Nicole Lynn. She was the agent that negotiated Jalen Hurts' contract with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think she's the head of football operations at Clutch Sports, if I'm not mistaken. I saw that, I was like, damn, man, that's dope. I think even in the NBA draft this year, they said that I don't think they were women, but I like to see Black people getting their shine too. I think it's all 5 of the top 5 picks were represented by Black agents and stuff like that. So that was dope to see, man. But I will concede that a lot of times women are a little bit more level-headed than us male folks. You know what I'm saying? So I do agree with that. And I think it's always important to have that diversity also, as far as just another voice in the room, man, because there's too much testosterone, too much masculine energy. It never really works well.
Exactly. You said it.
For sure. All right, so we're going to transition again to a little bit of a quick hitters, have some fun a little bit. First thing I want to ask you, what is your favorite part of the job? And then what is your least favorite part of the job?
Favorite part of the job is probably the experiences that I've been afforded just from, the draft, the pre-draft process, the, all-star weekends you get to experience, summer league, just the games, playoff games, game 7s, all of that are super fun. I think that's the 3% of the job that's fun and glamorous. On top of working with some of the best athletes in the world. But that's only a small percentage of the job. The rest of it is, really stressful and can be tough. But I definitely think that's one of my favorite parts. And I think just working with our different guys and their families and just the different relationships and personalities that I get to experience, I love. And then I think a tough part, or my not so favorite part of the job. Ooh.
This word interesting.
I mean, I feel like the obvious would be like annoying people hitting on you. Like, you know, that something like that is probably not my favorite, but I also like, I've gotten to a place where I kind of tune it out and it doesn't really affect me. So, I mean, if I had to give an answer, maybe that. And then maybe like when your clients or their families aren't happy, they might cuss you out. So that's maybe not my favorite either, but yeah.
That's never fun. So cool. So all right, walk me through the craziest day or the craziest task that you had to sign. Maybe it was like on a crazy deadline, you had to scramble, get something done super quick. Let's talk about one thing that the first, I guess, experience that comes to mind. We think like, damn, like I can't believe I pulled that off. That was wild.
It's nothing like crazy, but the first thing that came to my mind was the draft last year when it was the morning of the draft. And so they were getting ready to leave for the brunch, the players and their families. And I'm gonna put them on blast for a second, but Ty's brother and cousin, uncle didn't have, I guess, like an appropriate t-shirt. So we went to like the H&M a couple blocks down the street in New York. And it was like the one day that the previous day I was wearing like workout clothes. I was super comfortable. And then I was like, you know what? I probably should be a little bit more presentable. So the one day that I'm more presentable, I'm having to like sprint to H&M and find them clothes. And then we're sprinting back because the bus was literally going to leave them. And like, I'm sprinting, like they're behind me and I'm like, hurry up. And I'm sweating and like literally stopped the bus and they were able to get on, and it was just a mess. So that's probably one of the most stressful things that I can think of off the top of my head. I know there's plenty more, but that was like a funny, stressful one. And I was just like, I'm never dressing up again during this time. I'm wearing my hoodie and my leggings and I'm gonna call it a day.
I am dead. I'm dead. Hey, listen, that's definitely crazy. Booking it through the streets of New York City is wild, especially with all them people you bobbing and weaving.
Sprinting, like I was sprinting in a bodysuit and like jeans. Like it was not fun at all. And I'm like yelling at them to run, and it was crazy.
Man. All right, so on that same topic, right? Like I said, I spent a little bit of time in LA, you know what I'm saying? I was only able to go to Clippers home games. I feel like going to Lakers home games is a little bit different. I know you frequent those pretty often. So from the outside looking in, I feel like when you go to a Lakers game, it's a little more pizzazz. People putting on their fits. You see your celebs in the building, you know what I'm saying? Give us a fit. If you're trying to get, you're trying to get cute. You trying to pull a nice little fit. What outfit are you throwing on to a Lakers game? Let's say it's, I don't know. What's the prime? Lakers Celtics, right? Prime time. What fit you throwing on? Give us the outfit.
I think it depends on the time of the year. So I think that game is around December, which means we're like 2.5 months into season. Yeah. I'm probably already over it at that point. So I'm gonna be casual. I think I went to quite a few games last year, and I like in the beginning felt pressure to like be dressed up. Like I think the first game, it was like the Lakers versus the Clippers, and I wore a blazer, and I'm like, this is just not me. Like not so much like streetwear, but just like presentable but comfortable. Like, and there's so many games that I'm not gonna stress about, and I'm not a sneakerhead, which is such an expensive hobby. Thankfully, I'm not a sneakerhead, but like I felt pressure, like, oh my God, I'm gonna like have the same 4 pairs of shoes in rotation, but like, who cares? Like, this is my job. I'm not here to like look good for anyone but myself. If I decide I want to dress up, I'll dress up. If I don't, I might come in leggings. And what are you gonna tell me?
Period.
I don't even think I think about like who the Lakers are playing. It's just like what I feel that day. Like, I don't know. Do I feel bloated? Maybe I want to wear a baggy sweatshirt. I don't know. Like, it just depends. If I have time, maybe I might be up in LA because I'm in Orange County. So if I'm up in LA earlier in the day, I might not have the time to get done up or whatever. But most times I'm not doing it for nobody else but myself. So
Heard you. Now, I did see that you were in the building when LeBron broke the scoring record. So I just wanted to ask you, like, what was what was that experience like? What was the aura in the gym like that day? And then what does it mean to you to be able to kind of say, yo, I was there when LeBron broke that record? Because that's something that I'm forever jealous of, because LeBron is my favorite player of all time. You know what I'm saying? So I'm jealous of you for that.
I will say that I think in that moment I kind of realized how not spoiled, but just like being in the position that I'm in and what my job is, like people were paying hundreds, maybe even thousands of dollars to be in the building for that game. And I think I kind of took it for granted because I have a client on the team and I'm there to support him. And I think before the game, like there was just so much more media, like it was very like overstimulating. But I think just like when you think about it, it's like, okay, wow, I really did witness history. And so it was after the fact where I was like, you know what, this is cool. And I'm grateful my job like allows me to have these sort of experiences, right? Because so many people would pay or a lot of money or would wish to be there. And like I got a ticket from my client and I'm just like, okay, this is a game,
Right.
But it was cool. I mean, a lot was going on, but I think to witness history, it was really cool. And I'm very grateful that I was there. Shout out Max for the tickets.
Max, shout out Max. Now we talked a bit about this off air, but I want to talk to you about modern day, because I feel like, modern day is one of the powerhouses obviously in sports. Talk about just some of the athletes that were around modern day, when you were in school. And I guess if you have any, funny stories from high school with any of those guys.
I mean, I didn't know him personally, but I was a freshman. I think when Matt Barkley was a senior, he was the quarterback, went off to SC. I think he might be one of the backups for the Bills still. I'm not sure where he's at currently. But I did play volleyball with his sister. She was a year older than me. So he was there. Obviously, Stan played basketball.
All right, cool. So next question is, obviously I mentioned, you mentioned your birthday, you went out in LA, right? So give me your favorite LA spots to go out, you know what I'm saying? If you feeling out, you stepping out, if it's a restaurant, club, whatever the case may be. What are your favorite spots to hit up after a Lakers game? You gotta go hang out. Where are your favorite spots to go?
Okay, so rewind. I was in Orange County. I
Oh
went to
yeah.
dinner. But I honestly, these days in the last couple of years, I have not spent a whole lot of time in LA. I don't prefer it. I actually prefer my little Orange County bubble. So the only times I'm really up in LA is when I'm going to crypto, Staples Center. And that's kind of it. I mean, maybe before I'll go eat with, depending on if it's a game where the Lakers are playing one of our other clients. Like last season, I had dinner before with like Trey Johnson. Trey Jones's now wife, Maddie. So like I'll try to get, with our clients, significant others if they come into town. If they are staying in the city and they do something after, might get dinner, might go out with it. But because I live so far, I tried to like not, say I'm totally available. I just want to be like, oh, what are you doing after? Okay. And if they ask me, I'll go, but I don't ever try to like impose or like be around just to be around. I used to go out in LA so much when I was younger, like starting at 18. And so a lot of it's the same people doing the same thing to me. And it's not really, I like to chill and do nothing. that's my, I like to just relax on my patio, turn on the fire pit, and chill. That's what I like to do. But I do love food. So a good new restaurant, I'm always here for it. Maybe a lounge. I will say, I do like a good lounge. If there's somewhere with good music where it's like not super rowdy, I'm down for it. But like the turn up party stuff, you can miss me with all of it.
Heard you. How far is that drive from Orange County to LA? I've never been out to Orange County before.
It depends on traffic. I
Like
think
traffic.
without traffic, depending on where in LA you're going, it can take 45, 50 minutes. With traffic, it can take an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours. And so for Laker games, I was obviously getting there 90 minutes before the game started because I'd watch shoot around and stuff. And so I wouldn't hit as much because I was leaving earlier, but you definitely still hit some as you get closer to the city. Yeah. And then on the drive back, depending on what time the freeway might be closed down, you might have to take a detour, and it's just annoying, but I like my bubble out here.
Love it. Love it. All right. So we're going to play a little game of most likely to. So we got about, I think it's like 5 or 6 questions, and you could just rattle off the first client that comes to your mind when we ask these questions.
Don't worry,
I'm not gonna get anybody in trouble. You know, it's more so funny stuff. You know.
Okay.
All right. Most likely to pick up a check at dinner.
Pick up a check at dinner?
Pick up a check.
Probably all of them.
So nobody's like, ugh.
No, I mean, okay. Who's at this dinner? Like, is it me with my clients? Is my boss there? Because my boss there, they're for sure having my boss pick up the check.
If you're with your client, so no boss. If you're out with your guys and, you know, the fellas are out, who's picking up?
I don't think they would let me. I think maybe if it's like a lunch or something, I'll try to offer, but most times.
I don't mean like out of your clients. Like if your client's like, if you know, I got it, fellas. You know, I'll throw the card down.
No, they do it. They don't let me pay. If I'm going to eat with my clients, most times I'll offer, especially if it, you know, I'm getting reimbursed for it. But most times they take care of it. But if I had to say someone, I'll say PJ Dozier.
Okay.
You know, I've gone to eat with him so many times and he never lets me pay. So.
So I was gonna say who's the least likely to pick up a check. That was my next question. Least likely.
I don't think any of them. I think they
maybe if
all
somebody's the most conservative about money, you know, more likely to go to a thrift store as opposed to the designer store, and the most likely to, you know, I guess drive the Chevy Tahoe as opposed to the Lambo. Who is the most, I guess, money friendly person? I would say.
Money friendly.
Yes.
Okay, I'll say money friendly. Maybe Ty.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say, but even then, he would pay for it.
Word. I'm glad you got good guys. I'm glad you got good guys out there. You know what I'm saying? A good group.
Yeah. Yes, great group.
Bet. All right, who's the most likely to end up on League Fits?
Most likely to end up on League Fits. PJ Washington.
Yeah.
Washington.
Putting it on. Love it. Okay. Most likely to give you a headache with a last minute request.
Give me a headache with a last minute request. I think you get so many last minute requests that it's like, and it's part of the job that you can't even be like mad about it. It's just more so like, all right, I'm gonna work on it. I'm gonna try. We'll see. Yeah. You know, but I get last minute requests from Tyus Jones, but they're never headaches. Like I have no problem, but I do get some last minute requests.
Okay. Most likely to keep you waiting forever after a game.
Robert Williams, because he'll leave. Rob, but he won't tell anybody. So definitely Rob.
Man, that'd be the worst. He'd be waiting like, damn, bro, your teammates coming out. Where they at?
That was Robert, yes. Definitely him.
Did you hear that brief intermission? Did you hear that funny story? It was like a Jeff Teague story that went viral this week about
he left him. He was talking.
He had the box of pizza.
Yeah, he was like, I knew I was out of there.
That is crazy.
That was funny.
Oh my goodness. All right. Last one. Most likely to be photographed at a Michael Rubin all-white party.
Well, none of my guys were there.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Most likely in the future, maybe, or to be in the, you know, whatever, Rock Nation brunch or Lift Management brunch in a couple of years when y'all get that joint popping. But most likely to be in the mix.
Okay, are these guys that I specifically work with or Lyft clients in general?
You can go in general. You can go in general.
Because I could probably see Pat Bev or like Paolo Banchero at Michael Rubin's party, I think.
Word.
Or like Del Carter. Yeah, those are the three off the top of my head.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer. All right, cool, man. We won't take too much of your time, man. Last question.
Sweat a little bit. I was nervous.
I wasn't gonna get you nothing crazy, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna protect the brand on the show, you know what I'm saying? Fun questions. I wasn't gonna put you, in no crazy positions, you know. Last question we always ask, shout out to All the Smoke. Who is one person who we should have on the What's in Your Bag podcast? But whoever you say, you got to get in your point guard bag and give us the assist and help us get them on.
Ooh, wait, you said All the Smoke podcast?
No, say shout out All the Smoke, because this is a segment that we stole from them. This is the What's in Your Bag podcast.
Because Gina Paradisa, who I work with, works on All the Smoke. That's the one with Steven Jackson and Matt Barton.
Yes.
So one of my colleagues, she's behind all of that. She's the booth. But okay, wait. So what was the question?
Who is one person who that was good? Yeah, who is one person who we should have on the podcast? And whoever you said, you got to give us the assist with helping us get them on. Somebody who this could be a business person, this could be a player, this could be somebody who has a dope story, anything like that. There's no limits.
I know so many cool people. I would probably use someone more on the business side. Have you interviewed anyone from a team?
We've had team photographers on. We haven't had anybody from like a team like business, like front office, anything like that.
Oh my God, it's a lot of pressure. I wasn't ready for this one.
Yes.
Having to look through my contacts. Who would I say that you guys should interview? I'm gonna say my friend Katie Tong, and she's probably gonna be so mad at me, but we worked together she's the first person I thought of. We worked together at Landmark back in 2016 and like reconnected in the last year and a half, and like that is oh my God, she's calling me.
That is crazy.
Right now. Can I answer it really quick?
For sure.
Wait, Katie, I'm gonna call you back, but I literally just brought you up because I'm on this Zoom podcast interview thing, and they were like, who is someone that you would, I forget the question, that you would
have on the podcast?
Who should we have on the podcast? It's like in the industry, and I couldn't think, and I was like, oh my God, Katie. I was like, because we worked together in 2016. I was like, and that's my dog. And then you called me.
It's meant to be. Tell her it's meant to be. She has to come on the podcast now. It's like it's written in stone.
You have to come on here now. No, I'll connect you guys. Okay, I'll call you back. Bye. I tell you, that's my girl. Like, okay, so we didn't talk about this earlier, but like having gone to so many Laker games last season and like being where I'm at I got real serious real quick. But being where I'm at in my career, like I never thought that I would be comfortable and okay with like going to games by myself, but I am. And like it's almost easier because I can navigate the basketball space so confidently and comfortably now that I don't like feel like I need to bring a friend, so that I don't feel like, I almost prefer it because it's less of a headache. Like I have my, my credential and I just navigate, I connect with who I need to connect with. I see my guys and then I go home. But Katie has been like my road dog this season. Like when I have an extra ticket, she'll always go with me. She's the reason I've sat courtside for a half at a couple games because she knows every security guard in the building. So that I love her to death, and we have each other's back, and I love her to death.
That is dope, man. Shout out Katie, man. You're giving her flowers on this episode. Yeah. That's dope. We love to see it. This has been a great conversation. I definitely want to first and foremost say thank you for coming on. I learned a lot just by listening to your different perspectives about the industry, so I want to say thank you for that. And, You know, I always try to end off every episode just giving flowers. You know, I think that I always love seeing, you know, our people, you know, black people, black women in these type of spaces, getting these type of opportunities. So I really wanted to, you know, highlight that and have you give you opportunity to kind of just to speak on that and the wonderful things that you're doing in this industry. So I want to see you keep killing it, keep doing great work. Hopefully when I'm back in LA, even though you're in Orange County, you know, let's put that out there for the folks. Actually, it's in Orange County, but maybe hopefully we can meet up in person. You know what I'm saying? And
I can't even claim where I was born because I didn't like grow up there. Like my friends that were born and raised in Long Beach, they're like, no, you were in Orange County. I'm like, fine. I was born in Long Beach. I grew up in Orange County.
Up there. So maybe I can explore your side of town, you know what I'm saying? But definitely want to thank you for coming on today. It's been a pleasure. And continue killing the game.
Thank you for having me on. I was nervous. I'm still getting used to like doing these types of things. So thank you for making it easy and comfortable. And thank you.
No doubt. All righty, guys. That was another episode of the What's in Your Bag podcast presented by Bet Online. As I said in the beginning, make sure you're liking this podcast, subscribing to this podcast, giving us a thumbs up, you know, a 5-star rating if you're listening to this on Spotify. It goes a long, long way. This is going to be my guy, Pull Up Tay, on the outro. Until next time, folks. Peace.
Suave. I've been in my bag for a while, I'm invincible. Story of a young boss, grinding shit get critical. Calling on my bros one time, cause you special. I had some hoop dreams of right rounds for my mental. Every target that I shoot is on point like a pencil. Different route, change relationships, I'm so sorry. Came up from the trenches and I made it, I say hardly. Now